Deputy Leader Jonathan Pedneault is stepping down from his job. He made the announcement today with Party Leader Elizabeth May, saying the decision is for personal reasons.
Jonathan's decision is his decision. I respect him. I love him. I couldn't have asked for a better partner.
It's been the honor of a lifetime to serve alongside Elizabeth May and Mike Morris, two outstanding members of Parliament who dedicate their every waking hours to Canadians in a way that sadly partisan politics today in Ottawa doesn't quite exemplify.
Pedneault and May replaced former Green Party leader Annamie Paul. She stepped down in 2021 after serving as leader for just over a year. Pedneault won the leadership of the party on a co-leadership ticket with May, but since then has been serving as the deputy leader as the party made efforts to amend its constitution to allow for formal co-leadership. The now solo Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, joins me in the studio. Ms. May, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, David.
I'm hoping you can shed some light on the events of the last 24 hours, because there was a news release announcing there would be an announcement today about the leadership of the party, but then there was a national council meeting last night, and then suddenly Jonathan Pedneault is stepping away. What happened at the National Council meeting? Are they connected what happened this morning?
Well, yes, we had a meeting of the National Council so that Jonathan could tell them he was resigning. He did not feel, nor did I, that it would be respectful if our federal council found out from watching the news that Deputy Leader Jonathan Pedneault had decided to resign. His reasons are personal to him, and I respect that. But no, they're connected only insofar as we wanted to brief federal council before talking to media here today.
My sense was that you and Mr. Pedneault were going to be a package deal so you could eventually pass the torch on to him and step away as leader of the party, which you've led for the bulk of your political career. Did you try to do that in any way? Was there an attempt to pass the torch? And maybe that's what precipitated some of this?
What we believe, and I still believe in co-leadership as a good model for small parties like the Green Party. If you're looking at how you have succession planning when you don't have a passel of a large caucus of elected MPs, and hey, let's look at it, even the Conservatives with a large pass of elected MPs and the Liberals have had succession problems. Political leadership is, I think, uniquely difficult if you think about in an NGO or in small business. How do you groom your successor? Politics is different and difficult. I think my friends in Green parties around the world, not all of them have co-leadership, but about a third of the Green parties around the world do. The recent success of the Greens in England and Wales, I think, was largely due to the fact that they had co-leaders, both of whom won their seats in a first-past-the-post system. 4 seats in England and Wales is big for the Greens there. I think co-leadership makes sense. We'll continue to go down that road with a planned convention, special general meeting planned for this fall. The members will get to decide, do they want co-leadership or not? And if they do, what does that look like? Because constitutionally now, I'm the sole leader.
Well, but that's the thing.
That's not what I had ever run to do.
But co-leader may make sense, but it's not constitutional according to your party, right? You don't have it in there that you are legally co-leaders. So essentially you became the leader and Mr. Pedneault was your deputy leader.
And that's what we ran on a platform that said these are the steps to the constitutional change and what we will do if elected. And there were 2 teams, interestingly enough, of people running as co-leaders, even though it wasn't in the Constitution yet. The appetite within our membership for co-leadership is very, very strong.
Well, was there appetite at the National Council? Was there pushback from them? Is this one of the reasons why Mr. Pedneault was left, do you think?
The Council's job is to listen to the membership and give the members a chance to express their will. The Council is an intermediary. The highest power in the party is the members assembled in a general meeting. And that's where the decision will get made about co-leadership, not in federal council.
But were there issues between you and Mr. Pedneault and the National Council in terms of the structure that you were committed to and operating under, but didn't necessarily fit right into the rules of the party as they exist in the present day?
I wouldn't want to say that that was an issue, because it wasn't. I was frustrated with how long it was taking, that's for sure. But the reasons for delay in holding our general meeting to actually put it to the membership, do we change the Constitution to move to co-leadership or not, were not in any way nefarious or deliberate. We just had a whole lot of things that kept pushing back our national effort to have it put to a vote of all of our members. I'm committed to making sure our members get to vote on it. If members decide they don't want co-leadership, they don't, and that's the end of it. But they have to have the right to vote on that. That's been delayed a number of times. I mentioned in the press conference, one of the delays was because the Kitchener Centre by-election at the provincial level, which was where Ashland Clancy won by a landslide. But we'd been told by our friends in the Green Party of Ontario that it was super close, and could we please postpone this big special general meeting, national general meeting on co-leadership that was supposed to have happened right before a by-election November 30th in Ontario. Had we known that Ashland Clancy was going to get more votes than the Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP combined, we might have said, well, no worries, let's just go ahead and have our meeting.
Okay,
so we keep postponing, and it has to come to a vote this fall.
But I guess it says something, though, that if a national party can't sort out a constitutional and leadership issue because a provincial party is having a by-election, there's a challenge here with critical mass. And here you are now, we're back to Elizabeth May as the Green Party leader.
No, we're not. We're back to the thousands of volunteers we've got across the country. When you have the Electoral District Association of Kitchener Centre, represented by spectacular MP Mike Morris, saying, do us a favor, the timing of this special general meeting, especially when you move to the world of virtual meetings, you haven't rented a conference facility, you're not committed with all kinds of dollars invested in it, has to be held this day because we paid the caterers. We're convening hundreds of Greens from across the country for a meeting, and you get the Electoral District Association saying, you know what? It's going to be so close. Every door knocker is going to matter. We have to make sure that we don't take people away from the by-election in order to pay attention to the general meeting. I know it sounds, I don't know, it does sound thin on the ground, I'll admit that, but I think any party would have the same issue of, we have all volunteer door knockers. I know other parties are paying people to canvass. We have a lot of dedicated people, and we unanimously, which means I voted for it too, unanimously voted to delay the general meeting to discuss the co-leadership, and it's just something that has to be resolved.
But we've gone now from you as leader to Annemie Paul as leader to you back as leader again with Jonathan Pedneault as a co/deputy leader.
And
now back to you again,
leader,
right?
Amita Kuttner.
Right.
Yeah, so it's hardly as much turmoil as the Conservatives going through Andrew Scheer to Erin O'Toole.
Sure, but they've been either government or official opposition. So I wonder, like, what happens with your party now, right? Like, are you going to lead this party into the next election? Is that your plan right now? Do you need to have a co-leader? Can you plan to have that sorted before the next campaign? Where does it go?
Well, I don't control when the next federal election will be.
Assuming the
but
fixed date holds.
If
Let's
the
operate
fixed
from there.
date holds, we have enough time to get through the consideration by our membership, decision by membership, do we have co-leaders, and how are they elected or appointed? Because at this point, obviously, the person with whom I ran for co-leadership and a trusted and much loved colleague, an admirable and impressive human being, not easy to imagine how I find somebody.
But does this mean yet another leadership race? Like, is that your
That's
sense of it, right?
I don't think so, but that's not in my control either. These decisions are in the control of the membership meeting and a general meeting. I am leader of the party under our Constitution until such time as a leadership review occurs after the next election. I don't think, and neither did Jonathan think, that any kind of additional leadership race would ever be a good idea if we are going to the polls, obviously within, at the latest, as you say, the fall of 2025, but maybe sooner. I want us to be ready, and I'm very committed to electing a lot more Green MPs in the next election, because more Green MPs will make our Parliament work better for everyone.
Mr. Pedneault is not giving an explicit explanation for his departure. He's saying it's personal reasons and he doesn't want to elaborate those, and you're not going to elaborate on those.
They're his reasons.
But and
Heartbreaking, actually, but they're his reasons.
okay, all right, and I'm going to respect his privacy on this, but he was also generational change for your party, and that's not me backdoor calling you old, but you're 70 years old. You've been at this a long time, right? Does your co-leader need to be someone a fair bit younger? Is it time for generational change in the Greens? Does this need to happen so that it's not just viewed as the Elizabeth May party, as some people see it?
Look, that's one of the reasons that when I realized that as a climate activist, being so disillusioned with every other party with whom I serve in Parliament, I remember the moment, April 4th, 2022, when I read the IPCC latest advice on climate, and realized we are in desperately bad trouble. None of these parties that I sit with every day in the House are close to understanding how close we are to running out of time. That's when I realized I was going to have to do more than just being a member of Parliament and former leader of the Green Party. But I still wouldn't have run for leadership if not for the vision of how much better it would be to have that balance with a much younger person and a different background. I mean, it wasn't tick the boxes on, oh, and he's gay and he's racialist. We became friends. He's hugely impressive. We went into a partnership venture together, and he's decided to walk away from it. It's hard for both of us, but that doesn't mean that co-leadership is not a better way forward for a smaller party like ours. And as I said, about a third of the Green parties around the world use co-leadership, and it serves them well.
Green Party leader Elizabeth May, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
My departure today is for personal reasons. I won't be providing further comments on that, but I do want to say that Greens throughout the country continue to exemplify what politics should be about: collaboration, hard work, and most importantly, a commitment to this country and its citizens, something that I think other parties could very well learn from.
Okay, do other parties have lessons to learn from the Greens? We're going to start there with the Tuesday Power Panel. Emily Nicolas is a columnist for Le Devoir. Michelle Cadario is a former Liberal National Campaign Director. And here with me in the studio, Kate Harrison is a Conservative political analyst, and Matthew Dubé is a former NDP MP. It's good to see you all. We're going to start on this. We're going to interrupt it the minute Joe Biden starts speaking in Washington. So Emily, I'd like to start with you. I mean, what did you make of what Jonathan Pedneault said about his reason for departure and what Elizabeth May said in her explanation with me?
First of all, when a person leaves for a personal reason and doesn't want to explain themselves, I think we owe to whatever is left of decency in Canadian politics to respect that. However, I was more interested in what Elizabeth May had to say in terms of the future of the leadership for her party, and especially the generational renewal, and how difficult it seems to be to change the constitution of the Green Party so that there is a co-leadership structure, if that's what the membership wants. There are other examples of that in Canada. Here in Quebec, we have Quebec Solidaire that's been working like that since its foundation. It's not without its headaches, but it does have its value in terms of trying to have a balance of either generation or gender or background, rural versus urban. There is value to that model. And so if they want to go ahead, they need to figure out essentially the paperwork. I myself don't understand why it's so difficult to get a formal change if that's what they want. But what I heard today isn't something that's likely to draw people's attention to the Green Party and think that, oh, this is a party that has momentum, which is peculiar because we're in the middle of a climate crisis. And so you would think that, the ecologists in this country would gain momentum, but apparently they don't.
Well, Michelle, Elizabeth May and others in the Green movement, they point to the success the Greens have had in the elections in France and the elections in the United Kingdom. But, you listen to her talk about their inability to have a meeting to deal with this co-leadership question because of a by-election that happened November 30th of 2023. I mean, surely they could have done something between then and now, right? Like, it's a strange one to me.
Well, if that doesn't sum up kind of the state of organization of the party, then not much else does. I, like 99.9% of Canadians, was reminded today that they actually have a co-leader. I'm not sure. I respect that it is going on at a certain part in Quebec. Not sure that that's going to catch on. Like I was trying to think through what that might look like in the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party, and my word, that would be something. But, I think that it is a bit of an existential crisis for the Green Party because you said it in your interview. It's the Elizabeth May party. Like she is that brand. Up, down, and that. And, I'm not sure anybody else could name another Green MP or even a Green activist in the country. And so, they're at quite a crossroads and, some strength in Ontario. So maybe they'll draw on that.
Kate, it's interesting, right, that we're back to Elizabeth May after all of this, I tried to ask her about the need for renewal and not call her old in a delicate way because she is 70, and you look at Justin Trudeau's 52 or 53 and seen as past his prime in some circles. I mean, where do the Greens go from here?
It's a great question. I'm glad you brought up kind of the UK and the France examples because you are seeing other international Green parties have that success. And to Emily's point, we are in a climate crisis. There is a huge focus on climate change. We've been having a national conversation about the carbon tax for the last 6-8 months. Right. Elizabeth May has been nowhere to be found. And I don't think it's because Canadians care less about the climate. Perhaps it's falling a bit lower than economic concerns, but they certainly aren't gleaning onto anything that Elizabeth May is saying if she's saying it. I found it remarkable that the only other Green caucus member in Mike Morris seemed to be absent from the conversation today, even though we're talking about something as existential as the future of the party. So I don't think that they have a plan beyond Elizabeth May's cult of personality. And the fact that they haven't been able to translate any of the international Green success to any kind of electoral manifestation of a party and a movement at home is deeply troubling, considering how high of an issue climate change is on many voters' lists.
Yeah, Matthew, there was a heads up that there's going to be an announcement today, and then the National Council met last night, and the assumption was they're going to try to resolve some things, and today it's goodbye Jonathan Pedneault.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking back to the end of Annamie Paul's leadership, and there was reporting on, and I'm not privy to any of what happened behind the scenes, obviously, at the Green Party, but there was some indication in some of the reporting that, Elizabeth May was involved in a lot of the backroom conversations and everything. And so at some point you kind of wonder, when you hear all these stories about this disorganization, the inability to have meetings, the fact that a provincial by-election has such a vast impact on a federal party's leadership. And then it always seems to be coming back to her. So not only is she the face of the party publicly, but she seems to have a perhaps outsized role behind the scenes that's preventing renewal, not just for her as a leader, public facing, but also, behind the scenes as well.
Okay.